Hey everybody, this is Casey right here on Wall to Wall Country on this Wednesday afternoon, hanging out with all of my country fans as we play nothing but country during the show, and we're having a great time with that. Already got an hour in, but in the second hour, it's really become a unique event to have a very special guest on the show. And we're so excited and very honored to have on board Rachele Lynae today on the show, calling in. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Listen, we've been hearing a lot about you. You've got some good music and stuff out there, and I want to touch base on that because I know you've got some new videos released, and we're going to touch base on some of those things. But the first thing I always like to do with my artists is, if you'd be so kind, is maybe give us a little bit of background, where you're from. Maybe some inspiration points of who really inspired you and got you into country music, and how did you get to where you are? Everybody has a different background story, and I always like to start my interviews with that so people can kind of get a feel of where you came from. Could you do that for me?
Totally, yeah. Well, you know what? I actually grew up in Kodiak, Alaska.
Wow. And
that was kind of my whole childhood years, and there's something about being up there. There's a lot of really creative people that just kind of end up in Alaska. And I think it's just that there's so much wild, untamed beauty. It just inspires people. So, I started doing music really young. I started singing in church when I was like 4 or 5.
Wow.
As soon as they let me get up there with the microphone. And just continued. And my dad always played guitar and sang country music. And, after dinner, he'd pull out his guitar and play, and I'd sing along and dance along, and
Aww.
I always knew that I always knew that country music would be my home, and it was just a matter of how long, what that road would end up looking like, and where it would take me, and it didn't take long to figure out that at some point I would need to end up in Nashville. So before that, my family moved down to Washington State, and I finished up high school and did a lot of touring along the West Coast, and then when I was 18 and graduated from high school, I moved down to Nashville.
Nice. That's kind of, is that young? Do you feel that that's young, getting a start that early, or do you think that's advantageous? Because, I talk to a lot of artists, and some artists say, they started it later in their years, in their teens, and then I do have other artists as young as you. Do you think that's an advantage to kind of have that, already, being pretty solidified at a pretty young age?
I do. I don't think there's really a too early of an age to start. Because I was going back to the Kodiak days, when I was 10. Okay, my first CD that I got was Leanne Rimes, and she was 13 when that album came out, when Blue came out. And I remember sitting in my dad's old blue Ford four-door pickup, and I was sitting there, and I looked at him. I was like, Dad, we do not have much time. Leanne Rimes is 13. So, so from the time I was 10, I remember, literally spending a lot of time trying to rack my brain, how can I get this going, when I was, 10.
Wow.
So I don't think there's really too young of an age, because you start building and growing, and what happened for me was that by the time I was 12, I was finishing songs. Before that, I'd been writing little ditties, but hadn't actually, finished any songs. But the earlier you start the process of perfecting it.
Sure.
Sometimes, because I can guarantee you that the stuff I wrote when I was 12 isn't, near what I can write now. But I think that the earlier you start, the better off.
Well, do you ever think about visiting, maybe some of those songs of your thoughts of 12 years old? And obviously you maybe adjust them a little bit, but were they really that young, or are you in a different mindset now?
Well, I'm definitely in a different mindset, but some of those early songs, they weren't bad. It's kind of funny. I've gone back and listened to a couple of them, and I'm like, how would I know about a line, no good man, at the age of 11? You know what I mean? Or football, I guess. But yeah, some of these songs, it was so funny. But I think, just as I've gotten more into the craft of songwriting, I've learned how to paint better pictures.
Sure.
Sometimes, there's a thing called raw talent, and that's great, and it's really cool when you have the ability to put words and music together in any way. But then there's just, whatever you're doing. I mean, if you're a painter or if you're a songwriter or anything in the arts, you have to fine-tune your craft. And so I feel like, I've really come a long way since then.
Well, that sounds awesome. And so let me just make sure I got this right, too. I was just reading a little something. It said, you were singing and writing songs, at 5. You were doing some more by 12. And by 17, you actually were out on, like, a professional tour?
Yeah. I was actually in high school. I was doing Christian music, and I was touring and visiting different churches, some like youth camp type situations, and actually even visiting some juvenile facilities, juvenile prison facilities, and ministering to the kids there, and yeah, it was my whole life already.
Wow. You're going to be able to retire by the age of 20.
No, not yet.
Not yet. You're close. I tell you what, yeah. But and I guess there's good and bad about it. If it's something you really, really want to do and you're loving it and you're not kind of getting pushed into it, you know what I mean? You see those,
right?
You did it because you wanted to do it. Your parents were probably there, kind of like holding on the reins a little bit and go, hold on there, girlfriend. They want to be supportive,
yeah.
but they're trying to let a kid be a kid. You know what I'm saying? And
oh, absolutely.
But you were the ones, kind of shaking off the ties and go, we need to get this done like now, Mom. I'm getting old.
I was. That's such a great way to put it, too. Like, they were, like, holding the reins. That's exactly what I thought right before you say that. That was what I was thinking in my head. They did. They're so completely supportive, but they were like, okay, yeah, but, you're still a kid. Like, you don't.
Yeah.
They did. I think they didn't really know what to do with me.
Go out and play in the mud or something. Go do something normal. Yeah.
Can you not know what you want to do yet?
Yeah.
Like all the other kids.
There's kids graduating from high school that have no clue. So you definitely got a foot up on the floorboard there. So obviously you were talking about having some inspiration and having some people to look towards. So tell us some other. I mean, were strong women singers your thing, or was it groups, or do you have like a couple of them that were really, really inspirational when you were that young?
Oh yeah. Well, like I already mentioned, Leanne Rimes was huge. Just as a young person, to see another young person really getting out there and doing it,
Right.
Wow. So that was really big for me. I was a huge fan of the Judds, Shania Twain, Reba McEntire. And then later, when I was getting really serious about songwriting early on, was when actually Jamie O'Neill's album that had, Shiver and When I Think About Angels and There's No Arizona came out. And, I mean, I was such a huge fan of Jamie's. And I really studied that album. Like, the other ones, I loved the songs and I would practice, like, performing to them in the mirror or whatever. But then when Jamie's album came along, I actually studied the songs, like really studied the form in the songwriting and how she, had brought those songs and images in the songs to life. And so that it was kind of interesting, actually, that at that point I was already listening to somebody who now I actually work with Jamie at school, but
that was going to be my next question. I mean, how did it evolve from you, listening and studying her music? I mean, if that is that much of an inspiration, how did it come about that you ended up, which you're doing now, you work with her, but like, how did that connection happen? That had to be pretty amazing.
Yeah, it took, it was like a long journey. I actually met her father first, Jimmy Murphy, who's been in the business forever. He's like from New Zealand, and he actually is a great musician in his own right, like opened for Olivia Newton-John and stuff like that. But we were in the same studio in Bellingham, Washington. There's in that area, there's only a couple places that are great, and so we both ended up at what I think is definitely was the best one at the time. And we just kind of we met and like spent a little bit of time, but I was like 13, 14 when he met me, and then we kind of stayed in touch loosely, and both ended up in Nashville, and I think he actually ended up in Nashville again before I did. And when I got into town and I went to Belmont, and then when I graduated from Belmont, I was like a lot of people when you get to town where you're like, okay, what am I going to do next?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do I, jump the line? How do I make this happen? And so what I did is I had a list of people that I knew in the industry, been in the industry for a long time, and I started just taking them out to coffee, picking their brains, and just being like, hey, what do you think of this? And I had done this EP during college, and so I met with Jimmy. I handed him the EP that I had, written and finished in college, and I was like, hey, if you really think this is great and you can see a vision for what I'm trying to do here, then help me out if you can. If not, then I really welcome criticism because I'm looking to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually loved it, shared it with Jamie, and Jamie really liked it. So then he set up a meeting for us, and the first time I met Jamie outside of a fan line, because I'd done that, was at her house. And I showed up with my guitar, and we sat there and jammed, and ended up setting up some writing appointments, and then she ended up producing a couple of songs for me, and
nice.
It just goes from there.
That's an amazing story, Rachele, and I just think it's interesting. I think one of the big thing about country artists, though, is if you present yourself and you're like, hey, I'm willing to learn, and I want criticism, and I want to grow. I think they're very, very willing to help. They're not looking at competition or whatever. They're going, hey, we need to help this girl out, and obviously they did a great job because now you worked with Jamie on your self-titled debut album, right? She helped you with that?
Yes. Yeah, she produced it.
Okay, and that was, you did songs that were either written by you or you co-wrote most of those songs that are on there, Rachele?
Yeah, I wrote or co-wrote all the songs that are on that album.
Okay.
Jamie and I actually, Jamie's written on some of those songs too, and she actually even did a duet on one of the songs, so that was kind of cool.
Oh, that's nice. Which one is she on with you?
She is on 2 for 1 Special.
Okay, so people can look forward to that.
Yeah.
Now the one that is your released latest single, which you're trying to get it some radio airplay and things along that. This is A Whole Lot of Nothing, and that's the one that's the big single that's out there.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, I know it's also just recently had a video released out in the last month or so. So it's probably getting some play that way and things along that line. But why don't you tell us about that song and why that one?
The thing about Whole Lot of Nothing is that it kind of takes you on a little vacation for your 3 minutes, 3-minute vacation right there. And I wrote it with a couple of really great songwriters who happen to be some of my closest friends, and it took us forever to finally nail down a time that we could get together and write a song. And we're like, this is ridiculous that we have taken this long to get together and write. And so we just started talking about, everybody these days is so busy and all of our schedules are just so jam-packed. Mm-hmm. And it would just be so nice to have a whole lot of nothing to do for a second, So we started talking about that, and it kind of set the mood for this song to be a getaway song. Forget the to-do list.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're right. Society today is insane. And we were talking about technology before. That technology is supposed to make your life easier. I tend to disagree with that.
It really does sometimes.
Not so sure I agree. It makes the world smaller, and it helps people like you, when you're trying to get your music out. But sometimes technology just is not helpful. I'm sorry. But setting that aside, I think it's a neat idea to say that, because I think people do. They forget to stop for a minute and just, like you said, stop and just have a cup of coffee. Stop and just have a conversation with someone. Sit down and enjoy a beautiful summer day. And I think that gets lost, especially in today's world. And I think a song like that people are going to learn the lyrics to and sing along and maybe take those lyrics to heart. They're like, oh, yeah, you know what? She's right. I really need to sit down and do a whole lot of nothing for 5 minutes. That's all I need. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Take what you can. If it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes.
5 minutes is that's what I say. 5 minutes out in the sun is 5 minutes I didn't have yesterday.
Exactly.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead and throw that out to the listening audience? I'm sure they've heard it, but it's always great to hear it again, especially once you kind of hear the background, when people hear the stories of what it means, they tend to listen a little bit differently to a song because now they understand maybe a little bit more what it's about than what they did before. So why don't you go ahead and introduce your song, Rachele, and we'll go ahead and play it for our listening audience.
I'm Rachele Lynae, and this is A Whole Lot of Nothing.
I ain't just gonna wait around in a town that's just gonna weigh me down. Friday, I can't shake this headache. Been wearing these heels for 5 days and jumping on command. I just wanna watch the sun drop, sipping on a lemon drop, kicking off my flip-flops, name writing in the sand. I ain't just gonna wait around in a town that's just gonna weigh me down. Got real big plans, but not doing a thing. I just gotta get away, so come on, baby, what do you say? Let's watch the palm trees sway. Can't you see it? Ooh, don't you wanna feel it too? Won't stop till we see blue. Baby, just me and you, and a whole lot of nothing to do. We'll wake up, I won't put on my makeup, walk down to the beachfront, hair blowing in the wind. Maybe if we're lucky, baby, we can sail away from dry land, spend the whole day laughing, 'cause we're never going back again. No, I ain't just gonna wait around in a town that's just gonna weigh me down. Got real big plans, I'm not doing a thing. I just gotta get away, so come on, baby, what do you say? Let's watch the palm trees sway. Can't you see it? Ooh, don't you wanna feel it too? Won't stop till we see blue. Baby, just me and you, and a whole lot of nothing to do. Ooh, don't you wanna feel it too? It could be me and you, and a whole lot of nothing. A whole lot of nothing. I ain't just gonna wait around in a town that's just gonna weigh me down. Got real big plans, I'm not doing a thing. Oh, I just gotta get away, so come on, baby, what do you say? Let's watch the palm trees sway. Can't you see it? Ooh, don't you wanna feel it too? Won't stop till we see blue. Baby, just me and you, and a whole lot of nothing to do. Got a whole lot of nothing to do. Whole lot of nothing. We've got a whole lot of nothing to do.
And there it is, Rachele Lynae's little tune about taking a little time out of your day and do nothing. And if anybody complains about it, you can send them to her. That was a whole lot of nothing, which is a great song. And it's just a reminder to enjoy some moments out of your day that may not be quite as insane as the next one that's coming up in like 30 seconds. So good job. It's a great tune. And make sure you guys check out. Yeah, make sure you check out the video for it, too, and that's out as well. We're going to be back with more Rachele Lynae in a minute, right after the break. It's Wall to Wall Country right here on Penn's Peak Radio. Back with a lovely artist, Rachele Lynae, putting out some great music there. This girl knows what she wants and has known what she wanted from, like, day one of birth. And hailing from Alaska, and I just find that totally cool that you came from that state. You know, the influences that you've had with some strong women and some strong music out there, which is helping create who you are and your music. You got the new album out. You got some new music out there. And we're going to touch base on one or two more songs yet, but let me just touch base on this. You've lived quite a bit already at such a young age. You've been quote unquote rocking out on big stages now for quite some time, and you've had the honor of playing with some serious big guns. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of those performances? And I'm not going to mention the names. You can, because they're all they're not the local guy down the street, you know.
Yeah, it's been really cool because I haven't been doing a tour where I'm with the same group all the time. I've been doing a lot of one-off shows, and so with that, I've gotten to open for a lot of different artists. To name a few, one of my favorites is Randy Houser. He's great. His band's great. They're awesome. Let's see, who all have we opened for? Well, this last summer, we got the opportunity to open for the band Perry.
Wow.
And that was pretty cool.
I love that.
It was so funny because it was this gig up in Newfoundland, of all places. And
wow.
They were the coolest people there, and it was such a fun crowd. And it was a great group. Not only were we opening for them, but also for Emerson Drive and the Roadhammers. And it was just such a great group and a great group of artists. And it's the cool thing about opening for other artists that have maybe been doing this a little bit longer than I have, and definitely at that level for longer, is that you get to kind of see the little things that they do on stage. And everyone has their little tricks, for lack of a better word, things that they do to make the show have more energy or have more, powerful moments. And so it's really neat to kind of see what they do differently and see if there's anything that you can learn from, maybe even incorporate into my show,
Right.
So that was really cool. It was neat to see them, and gosh, they have so much great energy on stage. One of the most memorable, there have been so many. I don't even want to go too far into the list because I feel like then it's if you start forgetting people, then you feel bad. But but one of the most amazing moments for me is going back to those influences. I told you I was a big fan of the Judds, and I got to open for Winona.
Wow.
And they were just so they're just larger than life for me, I listened to them from such a young age and idolized them so much that, the first time I ever got to see them, just from an audience, I was so excited. And then getting to actually open for her, and she's fantastic, and just soaking in that moment of wow, this is actually happening right now. It is pretty neat.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty an accomplishing feeling too, to think that you're there, you've made it, and you have a lot to learn maybe, but you've learned enough to get to where you're at. And these people, I'm sure, respect you and are willing to help you out and and give you some tidbits or whatever it takes and things along that line, which is what you're going to take, and you're going to put it into music, and you're going to put it into your career, and you're going to put it into your knowledge if you're writing and things like that, and that probably is help you produce what you need to produce or what you want to produce, because obviously you're a girl who knows what she wants. And speaking of that, let's touch back on your music again. Some of the other songs that people will be able to get their hands on or can get their hands on. Another one of the songs that we were talking about was Old Fashioned Love. Young girl, you were talking about how a 10-year-old knows how to call a guy dirty and say, you know what, you're not good enough for me. Where does Old Fashioned Love come from? Is that a personal experience? Tell us about that song.
Yeah, Old Fashioned Love it's pretty cool actually how that song came about. I was venting to one of my friends who is also a great writer and actually artist as well. And I was just kind of venting about something and about what I was seeing happening in society and how guys weren't stepping up to the plate, And I was like, you know what? No. I was like, you know what? You should just look. I just wrote about this in my journal. You have to read this page. Don't turn the page. You can read this page. And I showed him just this page that I had written. It was this rant about, is there, and it was saying, is there that old-fashioned kind of love, the throw a pebble at your window and kind of love out there, you know, where someone just wants a kiss goodnight, where there's, you know, like just talking about that, like, where are the gentlemen at, you know?
Right.
And he read it, and he's like, Rachele, this is a song.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right, it is. So we sat down right there and wrote it.
Awesome. And that's cool, because this is, you know, sometimes songs, you can have the party songs, you can have this, you can have the truck driving songs, but a lot of times when you're talking about the love songs and stuff, I think the best ones do come from the heart. The best ones come from the pain, the love, the loss, or whatever. And when you put your heart and soul in a song, I think it really shows. So I think what we'd like to do, Rachele, if it's okay with you, is we're just going to go ahead and hit that song and throw that one out there and let our listening audience maybe hopefully not get teary-eyed over it, but really kind of feel it, feel your pain, you know, maybe understand the words on a page of a diary and go, you know what, girlfriend, been there, done that, I'm feeling your pain.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know, and it's not completely, it has a little sting of pain, but a lot of hopefulness as well, so I hope that everyone will enjoy that.
All right, well, let's give it a listen. We're going to take a quick bottom of the hour ID break. We're going to come back with Rachele Lynae's Old-Fashioned Love off of her album. Don't go anywhere. We still got plenty more with her and more wall-to-wall country coming up in just a sec.
Hi, I'm Rachele Lynae, and you're listening to Casey on Wall to Wall Country.
Changing out the pictures on the wall. It's funny, you were nothing I was looking for at all. Now I see how too many times I've settled for so much less than so much more. Don't think I'm dreaming, I'm just wondering, is there anyone out there who would throw a pebble at my window to steal one kiss? 'Cause he just can't resist. I'm not asking for the world or the stars up above, just someone strong enough with an honest touch. Whatever happened
that's a really great song, and I think people are gonna feel it, and they're gonna be able to empathize, and they're gonna say in their heads, and who knows, maybe they're gonna start playing it for their friends or for their guys.
Yeah.
Like, look, dude, you need to get on the bandwagon, man. You know, it's like, really go talk to your dad and learn some, you know, hold the door open lessons. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So good stuff. You have some really great stuff there. We want to touch base on one more song, but I do want to ask you about this. And I think every artist has this, and I always find it interesting. You know, all you guys are crazy busy. You're running here, you're running there. You've got a lot going on in your life. You're writing music. You're getting into the studio, you're producing videos, producing things. But I think just about every artist I speak to here on the Wall to Wall Country Show has a little piece of their heart that they keep for certain causes or for benefits and things like that. And back in February of this year, you did something really, really neat for a children's hospital. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how that came about and how that made you feel to do that for these kids?
You know, whenever we get presented with the option of playing a show, you know, a lot of times you're looking at, okay, what are the logistics, like, first of all, to have the day open, but also, you know, what is the pay, what is the travel situation, is the routing going to work, all this stuff. And if it's in Nashville even, it's like, okay, well, how recently have I played in Nashville, or, you know, have all these things. And that's true of any time except for when it's a charity show. And if it's a charity show, then we're like, okay, let me make sure I have the day, and if I have the day, then we'll do it. Like 9 times out of 10,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and something like that benefits a children's hospital. It's just not fair or right that kids would need to be sick. So I think that it's important that we do everything that we can to help children's hospitals and research for different children illnesses, or that will make their sickness last for as short a time as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That when they're in a hospital, they're getting the best possible care. You know, it's just important to give back and make sure that kids have their childhood.
And I think what you guys do too, especially for children. I mean, whatever the cause is, whether it's, you know, lung cancer, or it's breast cancer, or it's diabetes or whatever. But I think one of the things that music does and artists do, and I really, really, this is to me the highest accolade, you know, you can get, you know, aside from the awards and all that, but to see somebody forget about how bad they feel for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Because you're bringing them music, or you're taking time out of your busy schedule and let them forget where they are and why they're there. I mean, it's got to tug at your heartstrings when you're walking through these hospitals.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And, you know, country music is pretty known for, especially working with St. Jude.
Right.
And I've had the privilege of going down there and seeing the facility and been given the tour and gone to meet some of those courageous little people. They're amazing. They're amazing. And there's something about it when, especially with St. Jude, but a lot of these children's hospitals that try so hard to make it an environment where kids can forget for a second that they're sick, you know, and can, you know, like I said, can be a kid for a second.
Right.
It's really near and dear to my heart.
It's got to be totally fulfilling, and, you know, all the pain and suffering and sacrifices that you have to do all of a sudden are like, you know what, I'm going to keep doing it, because if at some point in time I can pay back or pay forward, you know, my talent to make a kid smile, you know, even like you said, even if it's for just a few minutes, it's totally cool. So I commend you guys on doing that and continuing to do that and trying to make it work in your schedules and stuff. It's got to be hard, but it's cool. It's really cool.
Well, it's a blessing to be able to.
That's awesome. Moving on just a little bit, we've got one more song that we're going to cover at the end of my show as just a little reminder to everybody about, your music and your career and things like that, Rachele. But why don't you touch base a little bit about how people can, find you, how they can get your hands on your music? Are you a Twitter buff? Are you a Facebooker? We were talking about, modern technology, but on those levels, it can be really, really helpful. Are you into all of that stuff, Rachele?
I am, and it's like a constant thing for me. It's so funny. Like one week, my social media person will be like, "You're doing so great. Keep up the good work." And then the next week, it's like, "Hey, are you still there?" So I'm still trying to get better at it, but it's kind of an every other week type thing with me.
I see.
But yeah, people can reach me on Facebook, on Twitter. And I try to, when people reach out, I try to, reach back as much as I possibly can. So I'd love to hear from everybody.
Okay, so if I Facebook you and Twitter you, I should wait to hear from you?
Just know that I'm trying really hard.
That's awesome. That's totally awesome. I think that's fine. But that's how people can, find out. You have a website too, Rachele?
Yeah, and we try to keep everything really simple because, as we were talking about earlier, my name is really just difficult enough on its own.
Yeah.
So it's RACHELE LYNAE.
Mm-hmm.
And, so the website's RacheleLynae.com. So Facebook is just, Facebook, Rachele Lynae. Same with Twitter. Everything's very
keep it simple.
basic.
And I think even if they might spell it wrong a little bit, if they get close, they'll find you, and
they'll still be able to find it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So they can find you on Facebook and Twitter, and the website to find out what's going on, where you're going to be, if you're where you're playing, what your music's going on with your career, and things along that line, which is awesome. So one more, I just want to remind people about a couple other things that you're doing or you've done is May 15th, you got to sing at a New York Mets game. Was that really cool or what?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's such an honor to be able to sing the anthem. Always, I'm definitely a big Patriot, so let's do that.
That's awesome. And also, one other thing I want to let your fans know about, CMT has premiered your new video for A Whole Lot of Lovin' on their new artist platform, and that started in April. So that should be that should be coming around, and people should be recognizing it and seeing it and stuff. And that's got to be pretty fun to do videos like that too.
It is. This one was especially fun because part of it I actually was on a beach. But that's always nice. Nice.
So can you give us a wink, wink, nudge, nudge of anything that you might have going on the rest of the summer or maybe in the fall? Or is it still all kind of hush-hush and things that you're still working on?
Oh, goodness. If it's hush-hush or not, I wouldn't know. I kind of wake up in the morning and check my calendar. But you know how it is, though.
Sure.
Throughout the summer, there are going to be more shows, and, I know that there's going to be some festivals, depending on where you're at in the country, and more get added all the time, and sometimes I'm not even aware of what's recently been added, So I would say the best way to keep up with when I'm playing and stuff is just to go ahead and look at the website.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm even out of it.
Well, and like we mentioned before, if you really want to know what's going on any given moment, find you on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff's kept up to date, and you throw some information out there so everybody knows where you are and what's going on too. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah, totally.
Nice. Well, Rachele, I just want to throw out an invitation to you. If you do end up, up here in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, I always like to extend an open invitation to all of my guests that you're more than welcome to swing by the studios at any point in time, or at least keep in touch with me. And you got something new and exciting going on, feel free to let us know, and you're always welcome back on the show.
Awesome. I would love to visit. Hopefully we'll get to that.
That would be marvelous. And, good luck with everything that you have going on. You're such a cutie pie, and I think you got it. you got it where you need it as far as smarts and knowing what you want and how you want things done. And you're very involved with your production. You're very involved with your music. And I think that's smart. I think that's really smart on your part. But I also think that, you just write some fun songs and you're out there having a good time and you're doing it all the right way. And congratulations on that. And good luck with everything else you have going on, Rachele.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, my dear. We have an awesome day. Safe travels when you are, and hopefully we may see you up here in Pennsylvania, but keep in touch. Okay, girlfriend?
All right. Thanks so much, Casey.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.